Yeah, I want to talk about something that is very dear to me and that has cost me a lot of money, a lot of grief. It's actually something that most gardeners are guilty of, and that is buying exotic plants or plants that don't fit into your zone, your USD hardiness zone, or your Canadian hardiness zone. So what you do is you buy, you know, Gunnera, and you put it in your garden. You have it next to some, swampy area. It survives the winter really well the first year around. The second year it turns into mashed potatoes. You paid $48 for it, and you're saying to yourself, not only did I spend $48 on it, I folded the leaves over top of the clump. I put leaves and straw on top of it. Then I put, half a foot of snow or half a meter of snow on top of it. And in the second year, it died anyways. Then there's those that want to grow citrus in their yard. So they put light bulbs around the citrus in the wintertime so it doesn't die. And, maybe you're successful, maybe you're not. So my rant is about, buying plants that are either below your zone, like zone 5, zone 6, zone 7 if you're in zone 8, or buying zone 8 plants if you're in zone 8. So what happens to us, we have this crazy desire for the exotic. Oh, Bill doesn't have this in his garden, so I need it. I need to have it in my garden. This idea of having a really beautiful garden by having, giant papyrus and elephant ears everywhere and all these things that, just barely hang on to life in colder climates. It's very tricky, very risky. You have to really think about it twice. Let's look at it a little bit differently. So you have, let's say, substitutes. Let's call them substitutes. So you have something that, could substitute the long grasses. So you have Mycanthus or something like that that can substitute the sword-like features of papyrus grass, or irises that resemble swords. Whatever it may be, there's always substitutes in your zone that can do the structural element to some extent. But you're in the safe zone. You know that plant is going to survive the winter, or it's going to survive the heat, or whatever it needs to survive. So when you go shopping outside of your hardiness zone, you have to be prepared that year 3, you're going to have a major setback. So, are you willing to risk all that work keeping those elephant ears alive, or the banana tree that you have in your backyard? Are you willing to do that? If you are, then it's okay. Like I had a lot of jobs in Toronto where I had to dig in fig trees for owners. We would dig this massive trench, cut the roots, fold the tree into the trench, backfill it, and take it out in the spring. That was one of the jobs we had always to do for this old Italian millionaire. So the idea is growing within your zone is less work, less risk, less headache. But can you live with it? That is the question. Can you live with not having something exotic in your garden? Are you willing to take that risk? Are you willing to fail? Are you willing to have it die on you? There's a lot of people that build these beautiful greenhouses to bring their, moderately, frost risk plants inside to the greenhouse again to make sure that it survives. So gardeners go to the extreme to have these exotic plants in their gardens that are hard to keep alive, but they're good show-off material. Like if you can grow oranges in your yard, your neighbors come by or fellow gardeners come by and says, wow, you've got lemons in your yard. How do you do that? That's amazing. Or, whatever it may be, there is a sense of pride keeping plants alive that don't belong in your hardiness zone. So that is a challenge with growing this exotic plant material in our gardens. We pay the price. There's no question about it. We pay the price. But are we okay with that? That we lose 75%, 30%, 80%? That it's a lot of work moving stuff into the greenhouse, moving it out in the spring. A lot of people are willing to do that because the exotics are just so different from, regular perennials that and shrubs and trees that are, from your hardiness zone. I think the best way to explain it is that everything that is in your zone is ordinary. Everything that is, let me say that again. Everything that is below or in your zone is ordinary, and everything that is out of your zone is extraordinary, exotic, difficult, needs lots of extra care, all those things. So that hardiness really makes people do stupid things. But, gardeners really have to say to themselves, okay, I've done the Gunnera 5 times. It's died on me. Do I give up on it? Okay, I get 2 years out of it sometimes. I get 3 years sometimes. Sometimes I have a little tiny piece that came back in the spring and it did grow again. And, it's a lot of thinking back and forth. Maybe Rheum palmatum is just as good. Like there's always a plant that might fill in that gap that you can't keep alive, that doesn't belong in that zone. So, we always have to really think over and over again, are we okay with growing these plants that don't belong in our zone? Yes or no? That's basically all you have to say. Am I willing to lose this money? Am I willing to lose this time? Yes or no? Now, the other problem we're having now is that the weather is getting crazy. Let's take Edmonton, for example. So Edmonton used to be a deep freeze all the way through the winter. The plants were kind of safe because they didn't start up and die and start up and die, get warm, get cold. But now it's like that, is that you have this, 0, 5 degrees, minus 30. Like the weather fluctuation has changed so much in so many places that really what's going to happen is these exotic, borderline, out of your hardiness zone, they're going to have a much harder time now with this crazy, you are going to get really cold weather in Toronto. You are going to get really mild weather right in the middle of the, in January, you have like plus 10. That's not good for plants. That's not good for fruit trees. That's not, if those fruit trees start to bud out, we're in a lot of trouble. So, global warming or whatever these changes are in the weather is making this hardiness zone map more real. Like what I'm getting at is you really almost have to stick to what your zone is. Like if you're in zone 8, don't buy anything that is above zone 8. That's how bad it's going to get. So, we have this changing weather. Maybe it's time for us to stick to our zone. Maybe the greenhouse does help protect us, to have these exotics that we can bring out. But the gardener's world is I guess it's only limited by money. You can buy plants back if they die. The greenhouses and nurseries are selling us these borderline hardy plants. So it's big business for them because the gardeners are dreaming. They have this wish list. They have this bucket list. If I could only grow this in my garden, and if I could only do that. So it's very tricky for us as well because you want to have the best possible garden you can. And a lot of times the only way gardens can really fulfill their dreams is by loading up on these exotics that don't belong in their hardiness zone.